I mean, sometimes
We're talking about the philosophy of celebrating birthdays. So the question is,
I have to admit that sometimes I fail to feel some sentimentality or like emotions. It's associated with birthday on my life.
Just treat it as a party.
Yeah, relax and have fun, basically. You don't need any sentiment to celebrate.
What utility could I possibly derive from a party?
Yes, if you would like to honor and respect your parents, I guess for them this day would be a day of sentiment for them as well. So
but it's their utility, not my utility, right?
Well,
but that's assuming that you want to make them happy.
Okay,
just because your utility is not maximized, maybe the world's utility is maximized when you go to the party. Take it for the team, lah. Come on.
Yeah, but the thing is, everyone has to waste your time, come down to a party. And by the way, I do value time as a very valuable commodity. I do place a lot of utility in time, and I don't like to waste time. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's wasting, but maybe it is wasting your time. But maybe for your friends, your family, they don't think it's wasting their time.
Okay, can I? I think that the utility of a birthday party is in pleasure or like just in increase of overall happiness in the world. And okay, the thing is, if your birthday party doesn't actually increase overall happiness in the world, however you like to define it, like pleasure, pain, whatever, then it's not like it has no utility lah. But we can assume that perhaps except for you, most of the birthday party members have increased happiness due to this birthday party. So utility has increased in the world. Now, of course, if you yourself do not enjoy birthdays and you experience, let's say, pain from doing birthdays, then it lowers utility for you. So you should not celebrate birthdays, or if you celebrate birthdays, you should not. No.
But you can't have this celebration without him.
I mean, I'm sure, even though it does provide like satisfaction, utility to other people who are attending my party, coming from my point of view, does it matter to me? Because like I said, I cannot sometimes I cannot decipher emotion. And by the way, some people have actually told me that I do share display psychopathic traits.
I don't think they are qualified to assess anything.
But it is quite common. But yeah.
When I was Go ahead.
If you want to, well, I guess, but the fact that you're still going means something, right?
Growing as in?
If you really thought that it was really a waste of time to go, and that it outweighed everything else, then you wouldn't go, right?
Review preferences, as they say in econs. Review preferences.
I'm not sure actually. It could be that he has been growing because he believes that he ought to put other people's pleasure or utility above his. But now he's not so sure. He thinks maybe, right, I should value my own utility.
But isn't that what Homo economicus is about?
No, not necessarily, because so it depends on how you do the well-being thing, remember? Right. So if you do it in terms of pleasure, then of course it's very individualistic, but you can do it in terms of preferences. And we often have preferences that are not about ourselves. Some of our preferences are about other people, right? Right. So sometimes the higher rank preference is not about my own pleasures, happiness, it's about my kids' happiness or whatever it is. Right?
But that's assuming that you don't have any false beliefs behind those preferences.
Yeah, of course. But given that these are the preferences, right, it does make sense, at least sometimes, for people to want to do things that are in a minimal sense of self-sacrifice, minimal sense. It's not even like a big sacrifice, like, come on,
Actually, come to think about it, right? I do love food, so I gotta check out where I'm having my birthday dinner in order to reassess my position on today's birthday dinner. So,
when I was when I was a grad student, there were 6 of us in our cohort in that intake, right, in philosophy graduate school. And we became quite tight almost on day one because we met even before the classes started. We already knew each other and all that. And even after the first semester, when we no longer take any common classes, because we all have our own interests and all that, we always try to find at least one excuse to meet every semester. And it's always supposed to be someone's birthday. Even though most of the time it's sort of made up. We just pretend that we just consider it's his birthday. So it's just an excuse to meet up because we miss each other. We want to be able to have a party together, right? So sometimes you think about it, maybe we are thinking of the utility generation too narrowly. Is not in the birthday in the official sense of it, but people just want to meet, and they derive utility from it. Not all of us derive a lot of utility from these things, but then some of us, even when you don't derive a lot of utility from it, you may feel as if, either because of duty or because you feel like there is still utility in having friends, or there's still utility in keeping them happy. So it's not as if it's completely, like simply irrational. No, I think that it does make sense.
Okay, I kind of alter my point on today's birthday. I just found out the place where I'm going to have dinner. Pretty good. One of my favorite restaurants.
But there you have it.
So
It's a wine tasting restaurant. It's a Michelin star restaurant in town.
You're actually going to a Michelin star restaurant for your birthday. Wow.
I mean, the Michelin star does. I don't really care about the Michelin star. It's the food that really counts.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the people there.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, any more questions or not? Like real questions?
I do have a real question, but it's kind of out of content.
Sure.
Okay, so I was reading, I'm not sure if the rest are familiar, but Tim Keller's The Reason for God.
Oh yeah, I know that book.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it though. It was
Okay. Yeah. So he does talk about J.L. Mackie on the topic of a good God allowing suffering. So he quotes Mackie in another writing on the miracle of theism. And so he writes that Mackie, so Keller is quoting Mackie, who says that if a good and powerful God exists, he will not allow pointless evil. But because there is much unjustifiable, pointless evil in this world, the traditional good and powerful God could not exist. Some other God or no God may exist, but not the traditional God.
Yeah. Notice that version of the argument is not this version you're reading.
Yeah, correct. So, on the point of pointless, Keller says that, which is what I said just now to Sean, just because it's pointless for you doesn't mean it's pointless for other people. Is such an argument a true but not logically necessary statement?
No, okay. First and foremost, right? That argument, first and foremost, is the metaphysical version is no longer a straightforwardly epistemological version already. You notice that? Right? And secondly, in a way, that version, ironically, is actually more to the point, right? Because now we are kind of really focusing on his so-called original premise 4. What premise 4 ultimately is really about is whether or not so-called there is such a thing as pointless evil, when you think about it carefully. Right? Whether or not there can be such a thing as pointless evil. Right.
What is Keller's argument then? What can we classify Keller's?
I don't actually remember what Keller said. So if you think of what I presented, if you disagree with premise 4, in a sense, what you're really saying is that there is no such thing as pointless evil. Yeah.
No, so Keller did say that the argument, his counter to Mackie's point about pointless evil is that there isn't such a thing as pointless evil, that just because it's pointless to him doesn't mean that it's pointless to other people.
That's right.
But I was just wondering, such an argument.
No, it definitely makes sense, right?
Yeah, but is it can we term it as what was it called? True but not logically necessary? Because it's about the truth of this statement is a matter of whether the world cooperates.
It's partly that, but it's more than that. It's even better than that, because you are arguing that the statement is false. You're not just arguing that that statement may well be true, but even if it's true, it's not logically necessary. But more importantly, from the point of view of someone like Keller, and for that matter, actually Plantinga before him, Plantinga is the real philosopher doing this, right? Say, no, the statement actually is false. And I got a whole long argument about that. So you got to do this in 2 steps. You know what Plantinga did? First, he wants to show that for is not a quasi-logical statement. Whatever it is, it's not that kind of stuff, right? Then after that, then he's got another whole long chapter. Let me argue now how it's in fact possibly false, and so forth. So these are different steps to the argument, but cannot squeeze everything into one lecture. Already, I feel as if this topic is really bursting at the seams already, like last week's topic,
Why does the premise 4, why does the point 4 say pointless evil instead of all evil?
Because so if you think about what 4 is saying, right? What the kinds of things that we are talking about here, and even in the attempted solutions, what you're ultimately saying is that some evil are justified, and because they're justified, you can see how it is consistent for a good and all-powerful God to have those things in the universe that He creates, because they are justified evil, right? So in other words, the old formulation in terms of just evil, does it exist or not? In one sense, it's a bit too simple-minded, right? It can't just be whether evil exists, it's whether justified evil exists, or is it pointless evil, right? Pointless is just the opposite of justified here, in this case, right? So that's where the real battle is. Actually, you're giving me a new idea. Maybe next time I go and find a nice little summary of that thing instead and do that. I'll think about it. Do you all find the Mackey paper hard to read?
A little bit, yeah.
Because he's very England, very powderful.
I think it has a bit of the old grammar.
He's very high class, kind of try to imagine him as this.
You see, like aristocratic for the aristocratic kind.
No lah, 20th century, please.
Wait,
aristocrats do exist today, so.
No, I know, but not that kind. He is definitely Oxbridge kind of aristocracy. You can think of it that way. I forgot which university was he from already. He's very
University of Sydney.
Okay, Sydney, yeah. So he's definitely very old school in his language.
I think he's almost worse to read than Neil sometimes, even though Neil precedes him.
He was worse to read than who?
Mill. John Stuart Mill.
Oh, Mill. Mill is even older. Mill is 19th century.
Yeah, but Mill isn't. I feel like at times they are almost equally as hard, even though one of them is 20th, one of them is 19th. That's what I mean.
Well, the sad truth is that, I'm sorry to say, most of y'all should read more of this kind of stuff. I practice a bit. I know the language trends have moved, and now internet, everything is TLDR and all that, But I used to assign Tom Nagel's What Is It Like to Be a Bat once upon a time. And students had trouble understanding.
Wait, do you say Hegel?
No, Tom Nagel.
Oh, okay.
What is it like to be a bat? Yeah.
If you assign Hegel, I would.
No.
I think it's not too. I mean, it could be beneficial to learn archaic English. Yeah.
This is not archaic English. This is just 20th century English.
I mean, I'm talking about like the earlier works of philosophers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but Hegel is infamously difficult to read.
First and foremost, is German. It's a particular kind of very Teutonic kind of writing. Okay, and then after translation, it's still kind of tough. Anyway, that's a different story. Let's not worry about that.
Yeah.
I agree also. But then, I don't want the class to be bogged down unnecessarily, because students are not understanding key passages, right? So the class is maximally focus on the ideas whenever possible. I don't want to have to worry about remedial English and that kind of stuff, right?
I think the way to help with it is just reread sentences that you're not sure about and try to summarize it in your own words.
Yeah, of course, but that is already but you see, I'm pretty sure that your competence in this is right up there. So you can, to you it's just rereading and all that. But you can imagine some of your peers when you're like, this is really this may as well be Greek. It's not impossible. And I really want to avoid that kind of stuff, right? I really want to make it such that the playing field is a little bit more even, right? I'm not saying that I completely succeed, but I try. And I also agree with Sean that it is actually good that people are exposed to this. The question is under what control environments and what's the balance of the pain that I'm trying to distribute here, right? Where is the pain going to, So if you ask me where should the pain go to, I'll say, no, you will not be in this. Go to the quiz, right? Go to the thinking about the logical, stuff and the concepts. And that's where I want the pain to be, right? That, you know, for various reasons of my own and for pedagogical reasons, I want to put the maximum effort there, right? Rather than you struggling with understanding 3 lines on Thomas Hobbes or David Hume or whatever. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, it's nice, but I'm not sure that's what we should be driving at in this class. We have a little bit of it. Don't say don't have. I did make you all read J.L. Mackey, you know. Who else did I make you all read? That is a little bit like this. Even Galen Strawson is obviously very, you know, Angmo, very, you know.
Galen was quite alright.
It's okay lah. He write for New York Times, should be quite okay. Who else did you all read?
We read Singer.
Norcross is very American. Singer is also very Australian, but he's not like Mackey. He's more modern, more recent in his language, definitely. Yeah.
Sorry, Prof. I have another, probably my final question. In this lecture, you mentioned Texan's challenge again. So I'm a bit confused. Is Texan's challenge always referring to a modus ponens, modus tollens kind of situation, or what do you mean by Texan's challenge here in this case?
It's a bit like you know, think of it as something like this. If you accept both 1, 2, 3 and also something like 4 and 5, right? Then you cannot escape the LPOE, right? Okay, so now the question is, Mackey wants to say that, well, don't you accept 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, so that you have it, you can't escape the LPOE. And then you can try to imagine the opponent coming out to say that, okay, I accept that if I accept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I cannot escape the LPOE. Since I do think I escape the LPOE, then there's an obvious thing that I need to do, all right? I shouldn't accept 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And specifically, I'm not going to accept 4. Right? So you can think of it as broadly that structure. But this is not, don't overthink that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Prof Loy, can I have a question actually? You know the quiz last week about question 1 about Bern and Nina.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So if I get your position correctly, you're saying that Bern undermines Nina because if his statement is true, then political authority would be completely like it would be a nonsensical concept.
No, it's not. It's not that.
Oh.
It puts pressure on the political authority. You know, it puts pressure on Nina's position, right? The other statements, they are all about private coercion. They don't even talk about government coercion. You realize that? So they are not even in the ballpark, right? Bern's statement is the only one that, if what she says is true, then all coercion is permissible. But that means that all coercion by government people are also permissible. Now, that's not the same as saying that they have moral permission to coerce because they're government. It's not the same, but at least it's in the correct ballpark already, right? You are in the ballpark.
But couldn't you say that if everyone has moral permission, then there would be no such thing as having special permission?
Doesn't follow.
Oh, so you can have special permission to coerce even though everyone also has special permission.
Maybe
to
different rules apply. Yeah, different rules apply, but everybody has permission.
Okay, so something like maybe the government has priority to coerce or something.
Whatever. Yeah. So that's a separate issue, right? But the more important point is that the other 2 persons did not actually say anything that implies something about government coercion. We look at them, what they say carefully, because it's all about private coercion.
Yeah, I noticed that, but I thought that because Bern's statement actually supports, like at the time I thought Bern's statement actually supports Nina's conclusion in the sense that because if the statement is true, then there will be no moral difference between government and any private citizens.
That would be correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can come to a conclusion that both the people to your left, you know, and the people to your right are wearing glasses. You shouldn't draw the conclusion that they're wearing glasses for the same reason. You wouldn't know, right? Right. Suppose they are faced with 2 persons, right? And then one guy is wearing glasses, the other one. But
actually, isn't Bern's statement quite not very strong argument against Lina's position, right?
It doesn't. It doesn't imply that Lina's position is false, right? But the others don't even get as far as her. That's the problem.
So this question is a situation like choosing
you look at which one at least undermines it in the sense that make it more likely to be false, right? It doesn't actually ask you which one implies that it is false.
Oh.
So we're asking for a weaker standard there. Actually, the point of that question originally was to see whether you all noticed that the other two are not even going to say anything about government coercion. Actually, that was the original intention, right?
Oh yeah, we noticed, but then we got confused by Bern as well.
Yeah, of course. We all discover these sort of things all the time. We discover these sort of things all the time about you guys. Right? Sometimes we think that you're going to be confused about X, but it turns out that most of you are not confused about X. But then in testing it reveals that actually some of them are kind of confused about Y. Okay, So that's why the quiz is very important to us. Not just because we want to test you. Yes, of course we do want to test you, but it's a powerful way for us to figure out what is it that you're not really understanding, and likewise, it's a way for you to figure out what is it that you're not completely on top of, right? Yeah, and it can be a matter of degrees. Perhaps you sort of thought it that way, but then you didn't quite close the gap. All that is all good information for yourself. That's how we learn. If there's any well-known and well-established conclusion in the literature regarding education, right? The one thing that is quite secure, a lot of things are very debatable, but the one thing that is well replicated, that is assessments work one. If you want to teach people, assessments are actually very important, repeated assessment. And if you think about it, it's actually common sense, right? Because it's a way to force yourself to see whether you know it, right? So the trick there is not assessment is rather how we deploy assessment. Whether we use these assessments only at the end of the process to see whether you understand, we call that summative. But then that's pointless because by then it's too late already. You can't learn from that already, right? So now you see why the weekly quizzes is so important for us, because it is one of the big drivers of learning for our module. The module moves along, forces you all to learn through the quizzes.
Actually, according to the literature, it even works if you test yourself before you learn the thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But then we also don't want to overdo it, right? If you do one quiz before the
yeah, I think students will complain that the marks are not representative.
Don't overdo this.
Yeah, and then if you make your quizzes ungraded, then people will complain you give too much work.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite against the idea of quizzes, because it kind of sucks away the joy of learning. You just like studying just for the sake of doing quiz. I mean, that's the mentality that clouds my head, which is bad. But so yeah.
So okay, it's a tricky thing. By the way, I'm actually very sympathetic to what Sean has said, but it's a very, very tricky thing for the following reason. I enjoy doing all this. I enjoy reading all this stuff. Of course, I don't enjoy doing the quizzes myself too. Duh.
Wait, you don't enjoy doing the quizzes? But the quizzes are really fun.
No, wait. Don't get me wrong. So of course, if I don't have to do the quizzes, I can just read. I can just talk to my friends and all that. But I'm not confident that I'm learning. Can you see that point?
I see. I
am enjoying, but am I confident that I've learned? That's a different story. That's the reason why, in one ways, well-given lectures are dangerous. Yeah, this is actually another point in the literature. One of the great things about eloquent lectures is that students feel like they understand stuff. That is a terrible thing when you think about it. because they get yeah, because a lot of times it's an illusion of understanding.
So are you somewhat indirectly admitting that your lectures aren't eloquent?
Depends. Do you all feel like I'm giving you good value?
I think so, certainly. Yes.
Okay, so do you feel like you understand more from the lectures?
Yeah, more than I did before.
Okay, so that says that I'm okay in terms of the trying to get things across and all that. So the point here is not that I shouldn't have that, I should have that. But I need to understand that it has its danger. It's supplemented by, it needs to be reinforced by the other mechanisms. If there is only the lecture, like if I put this out as a series of YouTube videos, I would not be confident that anyone learned anything by watching my stuff.
That's true. Actually, wait, one thing, I was actually surprised to hear Sean say that, you know, he thought the quizzes were not enjoyable. Because I thought the quizzes were really fun to do, you know. They were interesting to think about, and like, wouldn't you rather do quizzes than to like do some mind numbing like math problems or something?
I think my mind still like kind of revolving around that, you know, some liberal arts colleges in the United States, they have like 2 years grade free kind of like curriculum. Yeah, I think my mind is like still hinged on that.
Personally, I'm totally for the idea of grade free. I'm totally for that. But even if it's grade free, I will still have quizzes. They are scored. So to distinguish two different components are, one is, should there be quizzes that are scored? Should the scores matter for your overall grade? You're thinking about the second thing, all right? So even if I were to run a class like this in a grade free year, trust me, I will be using the same mechanisms. But it won't count in the sense that you don't have to worry about it. It should you know. Why? Because the scoring is feedback to you. You know, it tells you whether you're on the right track, right? Whether it should matter, that's a different story, right? Whether it should matter in your CAP and all that kind of stuff. That's why SU exists, what?
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not completely a grade free year because it's only 32 MCs.
Yes, but this one is totally SUable, right? You don't need it to do anything. How hard can it be to pass this one? Come on.
Not that hard.
Yeah, right, you know, I don't teach to fail people. I teach to pass people, right? Passing modules are not meant to be crazy, right? In general, I consider it a failure on my part if a significant number of people fail my module. I think I've not done my job correctly. On two different ways. Either we haven't set the correct prereqs or give the correct comms so that the right kind of people who are sufficiently prepared come take the module, or we didn't do enough of an effort to make sure that given that these are the students we have, we need to bring them up to speed in the correct way, right? So we don't design modules to fail people. Now, getting an A, different story, okay? Okay, that one we are very near. You want to get a high class grade, then all right? But passing is not meant to be unachievable. We design modules in general, at least I design modules in general, to help people, so people can pass, people can learn. What does it mean to say that they can pass? It means that they have learned, right? How can you possibly, what am I doing if I design modules that don't teach? So that you don't learn? I mean, that cannot be like that. That would be crazy, right? So obviously I design modules so that people can learn. And one way to say that, put a stamp and say that, yeah, you have learned, is that, yeah, you can at least pass, right? I share Sean's concern in the sense that if the only thing you think about is getting a good grade, it does really constrain people. If they don't dare to explore, they don't try things out, they don't enjoy the process. I get that, by the way. But that's not the same as saying that you shouldn't score quizzes. No, you should score quizzes. Whether or not the final grade should matter should be a different story. Maybe there shouldn't even be a final grade. Sure, I'm okay with that. Yeah, but I will still score your quiz. Because that's feedback to you. And that's feedback to me to know whether anyone is learning anything at all. Yeah.
Prof, can I express another concern, especially for the final quiz?
Oh, it'll be, by the way, the final quiz will be easier than all these quizzes. I'll just say, yeah.
Okay, no, because in my head, I'm thinking if this quiz or if the final quiz is anything similar to what we're currently doing now, I think the pattern that we have is that you give out the quiz and then we spend about a week thinking about the questions and then we finally log it in on Sunday night. We don't have that luxury for the final quiz. So
I know that. So please, you think I just started teaching this module? No, the final exam, the final quiz will be a much more constrained version. You know, it's exam, it's under exam condition. They don't have friends to talk to. They only have 2 hours. Okay? Of course, you cannot count upon them having the same kind of luxury. Of course, we understand that. So they'll be more direct, they'll be more straightforward. They won't be straightforward recall, but instead of asking you to do 3 steps of influence, we ask you to do 1, right? Stuff like that, right? You'll be like that, right? They're the same kind of questions, but they will not be as convoluted as the ones you see in the quizzes, right? And secondly, you won't see anyone where it says that So according to page 335 of Singer, he says this. No, you won't see any of that kind of stuff, right? That requires you to sort of go back and do reading comprehension on that. No, you don't even need to bring your papers. You don't even need to bring your readings into the exam, or if you don't want. This is in the old days when we do, in-person exams, right? So don't over worry about this. I'm serious. This is how training works, all right? We put weights on you so that we run up and down the mountain, so that when you actually go and fight, the enemy, you take off of course you take off the weights, right? All the boys who went through the army will know, right? Our dummy rifles are like heavy, right? There's a reason, right?
I wasn't from army, so.
Yeah, whatever, you get the idea, right?
No, I actually don't.
No, the basic idea is when people do the drills, they actually use a dummy weapon that is not a real weapon, and that thing is heavier than a real weapon. Why?
Yeah, insurance, okay. I think more than half of us here have not gone to.
But you get the idea, but you get the concept, right? You get the concept, right? Right. So the quizzes are meant to be harder than an exam. This is obvious, right? It's kind of an obvious thing that, of course, we will do it this way.
That's very strategic.
What?
No. I just said that's very strategic of you.
You think we don't think about such things?
Hey, I never said you guys never think of it. Okay.
Oh yeah, it is very strategic, of course. And what's the strategy? What is the point of the strategy? To enforce learning, right? Because that's our interest. Why do we do classes? To make people learn. Because otherwise, if we don't need to worry about that, then it's actually very simple. Put out a bunch of YouTube videos and we're done with it. No need to spend so much brain power to craft all those quizzes.
But to be fair, that kind of prepares you for a YouTube career, Prof Loy.
Don't get me started on that. But
yeah, a few years down the road, we can look for Prof Loy Academy of Philosophy.
It's different. It's a different ball game altogether. You can learn a lot of things on YouTube, but I'm not sure whether you realize this. I don't think you can learn what we are trying to teach you in this module, not in the sense of the content, but in the sense of that forcing you to practice thinking very hard.
I also don't think you retain a lot either. I don't think you retain a lot from YouTube videos.
That's right. Right. I'm actually interested in looking for ways to make people learn. That's what I'm interested in. If I just want to put out a bunch of content, that's a different ballgame. That one is YouTube. That one is fine. And by the way, don't get me wrong. I don't have TV anymore. The only TV here is YouTube. And I'm a paid, Mrs. Loy and I, we are paid subscribers, YouTube Prime money. That's all I do.
Just download YouTube then.
Yeah. Okay, we have a lot of DVDs as well, but when we don't have time, we just watch Full Wishes. Okay,
Netflix, not Netflix or Amazon Prime Video.
No, not even that. I don't see why. I don't see what's the big deal.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, because most of the time we don't have so much time. Just watch a short clip. We love food channels. Food Wishes, that's my favorite. Chef John.
Oh yeah, Chef John is awesome.
So funny and so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and he always has the rhyming thing in every video.
Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, if you're thinking, yes, a lot of my role models in a small, yeah, basically I watch a lot of YouTube, so when I think about how do I do things on Zoom and record videos and all that, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, and then some of the people I watch are not even young people. There's a particular museum in the UK. It's a tank museum. They have a lot of World War II tanks. So they're all old people. They're much older than I am, but their videos are so good. I can imagine the guy being he's like a history PhD, the director. And I'm telling some of my colleagues and friends, you want to aim to be engaging on a screen, look at that. You don't even need to be young. You don't even need to be like a YouTuber in the traditional sense, but you need to be like this. Right? You need to believe in your subject. You need to be passionate about it, and you need to try to be clear and explain things and all that. Yeah. So that one is not news to me. But it's not enough to enforce learning. That's the thing that I want to drive home today. Okay.
Maybe it's not enough to enforce learning. Wait, what do you mean by it's not enough to enforce learning?
It means that you hear a bunch of content. What's the best thing that can happen is that you learn. But it's very likely that something else is happening as well. It's happening actually. That in a big number of cases, what actually happens is that you got the illusion of learning rather than learning.
That's a common problem.
Yeah. Okay. And the more eloquent the guy is, the better the guy is at the YouTube thing, at the lecture thing, the more likely it is that there's a big proportion of people that actually didn't learn. What they got was they got the illusion of learning. Yeah. They got the sound bites, they got the few floating ideas that they never actually put together in a sharp and careful way. And that's my biggest worry. Right? So if I only have the lectures, this is not a complete module. Yeah. Now you know why the quizzes exist and the tutorials exist. They serve different purposes, but the quizzes is a big part of the engine here.
Yeah, and I think the quizzes are really effective because they get to promote thinking and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's certainly better than a lot of traditional assessments when they just be like, what is the definition of consequentialism? Maximizing happiness in the world. B, maximizing pleasure pain in the world. C, following rules or norms that
I hate those. I hate those.
The answer is B. I'm not
Yeah. They are pure recall questions. They have their role, they have their place, right? But they don't enforce the kind of learning that I want. They enforce recall. So they are useful if you need to check whether the student remembers some of these things. Okay, so the first thing you already know it has to be closed book environment, which we cannot even guarantee when it's out in the wild, right? But even in the exam, I don't see why I should be doing that kind of stuff at all, right? Okay, leaving it aside. So the MCQs that you see that we design, they all involve an additional step of thinking one. Typically, there is no way for you to just do a Control F in the reading and go and find something and that's the answer. Typically, it doesn't work this way, one. Right? Because we want you to Control F and found something, then you stare at it and then you think to yourself, wait, what? Is this what the question? Then you got to think. You need to make inferences. You need to say, put one and one together. Then you can figure out the answer. Yeah. And one of the podcasts where we had a student come on board, I did mention that if you do the quizzes correctly, when you eliminate an option, it's because you have a reason to eliminate the option. Right? You can explain, say, no, not A because. You see, when I do the debrief, I don't just say A because whatever. I always say, not A because, not B because, not C because. Every one of them, there is a because, there is something you can say. So if the way you're doing the quizzes is, let me look for the most plausible one. No. You're not doing it the right way. Yeah, you're not really getting the real punchline of the quiz. And you're probably going to get a lot of wrong answers as well. Right? It has to be, you think to yourself, no, not A because there's a reasoning, not B because, right, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Are the rest of you planning to major in philosophy? Just a side question.
Minor or second major, I'm not sure yet.
I'm not even in the FES, so no.
Oh, okay.
You're for engineering, right?
Biomedical engineering.
Do you see a UE space?
What?
Do you see an unrestricted elective space?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, so if you can still take classes here if you want. So, yeah. Kavita, you're from FESS, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, as I said, don't major in something unless you really, really want to do it, and you are willing to do it a lot of it. so you know.
I'm a social worker major.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Actually, I kind of already intend to take a few mods over this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really looking forward to the continental philosophy next time.
I mean, personally speaking, I think that Anyway, sorry. I think I lost you guys. Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking philosophy mods if they weren't graded, but but because philosophy is something that I read on my own free time, so like not something that I will formally study for pragmatic reasons and at the behest of my mother as well.
I completely understand. I completely understand.
I mean, I would take up philosophy if my mom wouldn't defund my university tuition funding. Yeah. I was actually like supposed to go to London School of Economics to study anthropology, but my mom said no future. Like, yeah, and you know, and you know what she said? Like, she actually showed me. Look, other people say got no future. What? See, got this guy on Reddit who says blah 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 blah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
okay. It's okay.
No, London School of Economics is damn prestigious.
Hello.
And so it's either UCL or London School of Economics that I was
Very prestigious.
Wait,
Well,
but
anthropology.
why do you apply for anthropology anyway? Is it because interest?
Pardon? I think learning about human beings, humans are weird creatures, and I thought it would be interesting to learn the nuances of human beings, of humans of different societies, cultures. I mean, learning just for the sake of learning, I would say.
Personally, I don't really care whether people major in philosophy. I only want the ones who really want to do it to major in it, right? However, I'm also one of those who believe that everybody who comes to university should do a little bit of philosophy. Right? University never do at least a little bit of it. What kind of, no bragging rights? Come on, right? Like your university already, you do at least one, right? Yeah. And after that is go and read whatever you want to read. I mean, this is not as they say, it's a free world. Yeah. There are a lot of subjects that are like that too, by the way. Even in my own case, there are a lot of things that I love to read in my own free time, but it's not the kind of stuff that I will want to take a class on or something like that. Yeah. Okay, I got to run already.
Okay, yeah.
Bye.
Goodness, it's
Bye.
really 12.
Find your birthday party.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Let's hope the world security is going up thanks to that.
Oh, thinking of all the good food, all the good food and stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
enjoy the good food.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.